If you want to bond with an autistic kid, this is the #1 mistake you need to stop making.
Hey, what are they fighting about? Are you gonna make it go down the slide? Do you want to use green right here? Hey, who is that right there? Where's he going?
For most kids, we expect questions to lead to a positive social transaction. At a basic level, transactions of any kind are just an exchange of value. You show interest in what I'm doing, and I reciprocate by giving you a positive response.
They finished breakfast, now what?
They're gonna go to the beach and they're gonna find a mermaid. You wanna see what the mermaid looks like? She's right here. She lives in the ocean.
What beach are y'all at?
We're gonna go to Myrtle Beach. It's kind of dirty, but it's okay because we're gonna clean it up. But for so many autistic kids, it doesn't work like that. Not my cat.
Ooh, show me the picture.
Get out of my trash can.
What trash can? I don't see a trash can on there.
Scram! Have you seen my cat? If you're getting negative responses, it means the kid isn't buying what you're selling.
Where does that piece go? Does it go right here? All right, where's the pig go? Oh.
The transaction can't happen because your offer isn't adding value. Here's some stuff to try if the person in your life uses a different currency.
First-time grandparents. Choose your battles carefully and defer to the parents at all times. Young parents today aren't pushovers like we were. They're not going to let themselves get trampled over or their wishes not be taken into consideration like we did with our parents. It is socially acceptable now for young people to have like self-care, have boundaries, all that stuff that we never had and never even knew existed when our parents kind of took over and we just let them, or bossed us with the babies, or held us hostage. They don't take that bull, and you have to prioritize. Do I want to be an integral part of my grandchild's life, or do I want to impose my will on the parents of the baby? Like that fired mom always acts like she does not know where this is coming from or why they've cut her out. She knows. She knows. It just is more important to her to impose her will or get her digs in or be a certain way than it is to spend time with her grandchild. So that's the choice you have to make. And take it from me, you want to spend time with your grandchildren. You want to be a big part of their life.
Intellectual honesty is what can get sacrificed if someone equates psychological safety with only being the rainbows and butterflies. Because you have to be able to give people constructive feedback so that we know how to improve on an idea, right? So the environments in the studies that I chose to include in this chapter, the studies indicated that the environments that were able to kind of hack this, the accountability and psychological safety, not only did they have better innovation, they had more frequent innovation because the feedback was useful, but they didn't feel like they were being, there was no repudiation for having, an outside of the box idea or something that's
bad idea.
Right. So, but this, I think, kind of ties to the other two tenets of a human-centered leadership, which is a human-centered leader can model intellectual humility, and they're also comfortable communicating with transparency. One of the biggest skills that I get asked to coach leaders on is giving feedback. They're afraid of hurting somebody's feelings, but they also don't know how to not just say something directly in a way that can be interpreted as, brusque or maybe a little heavy-handed. So they tend to not say anything at all. And say, okay, well, you know what? That's fine. It's, it's okay. We'll just, see how it works out. And it's not really giving any useful feedback, and it's not addressing.
Very rarely works well at all. And this is where unwritten rules amplify.
100%.
Because one of the unwritten rules is being indirect, right? And that I talk a lot about how that's harmful because it's now that it had never even occurred to my redneck ass to think of psychological safety as like rainbows and butterflies. Like, I'd be like, wait, pause, what? But like hearing that, I feel like I have a whole different perception of this indirect language because there's being indirect or there's learning how to the skill of giving honest but kind feedback. But then there's also just that when you do nothing, or you just say it in a way that you're like, well, I told them, but it was so abstract that it didn't make sense. That's not going to get you any results. I mean, or there is going to be a result, but it's not going to be a good one for either of you, the business or that person. So
I actually wrote a chapter for a book that's coming out this fall. The book is called Brilliant Leadership. It's going to be released by Routledge. I don't have a date for it, but the chapter that I co-wrote was around human-centered leadership and innovation, and how the tenets of human-centered leadership actually fuel innovation for the reasons that you just said. And something that I think people struggle with is, or leaders specifically, is, well, they want to provide psychological safety, but how do they do it in a way where they can still maintain intellectual honesty? So it's that balance between psychological safety and accountability that I think is sometimes tricky to traverse, because there is a perception that if you give any sort of feedback that isn't glowing, then you're not being psychologically safe. So it's kind of like, if
you give any feedback that isn't glowing, that you're not being psychologically safe? As in you can't compliment people, or the opposite?
No, as in, you can't tell people that they're doing something wrong.
Oh, no, that's not psychological.
You'd be really, really positive, or because then you're not being seen as supportive, and that's not psychologically safe. So it's like, it's like having to balance accountability with psychological safety it's a skill, to
be able to give feedback in a, and this reminds me of when Raquel and I did, I think, our second live on that being nice is not the same as being kind.
Right.
Like the facade of telling someone they're doing a great job when they're not, and setting them up to never have the chance to correct, is not kind, but it might be nice. And so I could see that being misconstrued. I hadn't thought of it that way, of I'm worried about their psychological safety if I say something negative, but you don't have to berate them. Like there is, like you said, it is a skill. And I think it is something that's assumed that women just know how to do, right? And that it's okay that a lot of men don't, but it is a skill to learn how to say, this is what happened. We need to, either these were the consequences, or do you see the impact this had? And like, this is what we need to do better, right? And I believe you have it in you, but I need to make sure that we do better. So how can I support you in this effort? Or whatever the conversation is, of like, it doesn't have to be, again, that all or nothing of, I either completely bullshit you with rainbows and butterflies,
Right.
or I go full military commander and tell you you're worthless, right?
I don't understand how anybody is paying rent right now.
Hello! Did you know that financial advisors recommend that no more than 30% of your income be used on rent? Fun fact number 1. The average rent in America in 2024 is $1,700. Fun fact number 2. Nobody should have to work more than 40 hours a week. And fun fact number 3. In order to live comfortably, the minimum wage should be $32 an hour. I'ma wear these shoes till the soles fall off. Finally got my mind right, now my soles all off. I'ma pay my dues just to pay more dues. Wait a minute, where's my dough? Oh God. It seems like penny pinch is more of a necessity. My boss is working, but he doesn't
they're unwritten rules that have unwritten consequences. Another thought I want to add here, I think another reason working class people have a hard time with unwritten rules in corporate is because there are often tangible consequences to abiding by the unwritten rules, meaning that socially you will be accepted in abiding by knowing the cultural norms and the unwritten rules, such as what my research has found with like speaking indirectly, being very compliant, not disagreeing, not bringing up issues. That will win social points, which is important in corporate. However, there are very real tangible workplace outcomes that are harmful and can be made worse by that, such as a lack of psychological safety, such as bad products coming out because nobody could speak up. I've made several videos on how I think this happened with Boeing and the Bumble ad disaster a few months ago, of miscommunications from all the indirect speech, of all the not focusing on the productivity of the work because of all the backstabbing and navigating hierarchy and social relationships on, are we being competitive or are we actually collaborating right now? And I think that makes it very hard with what I said in the previous video about working class culture is fine with violating social norms, but not with tangible consequences, that it is very hard when the social norms are what get you promoted, but they might very well come with tangible consequences that are very obvious. It's not very incentivizing to change your culture and your values when you see the harm being caused either to the business or to other people. And I think that's where a lot of working class background people struggle.
I don't understand the Republican agenda. I don't understand how the poor become the enemy. I don't understand that really. How does the poor become the enemy? Because they never finish their sentences. You know, they always come out and go, we're going to trim the national budget and we're going to get rid of welfare. Woo! But you never hear, so the poor will die. Woo! Oh shit, I don't want to be part of that. Hey, come on, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Oh, you haven't got shoes. Sorry. I mean, what are they preparing for by pandering to the Christians? I mean, I'm starting to think like, hey, you think the Time Warner merger was big? Wait till you see church and state. That's going to be really big. I think Christ is coming back to broker that himself.
You don't like me?
No, I think you're really, really nasty to pensioners.
Why is it a young person's fault that house prices are so high?
Because most young people today, they want holidays, they want to keep drinking coffee all day, and I'm not being nasty.
Well, you are.
Right? They don't want to sit in and save up like I did for 4 solid years.
But Pat,
they want everything.
their
And
wages...
also, most of them are on 30 grand minimum.
Yes, true.
Right. And I paid 15% interest on my mortgage.
Yes.
Today they get 2.5%.
Yes, but the starting price of a house to get the is now 8 times higher than the average salary. It was nowhere near that in your day.
Not other places in the country. Why don't they move somewhere where it's cheaper then?
Okay, well I'll put that to you. Why don't you move somewhere that's cheaper?
Because my son's here now, my grandchildren.
I know, but
he needs
young
me
people
to
would
look
say
after
that
them.
too. Their
Because
jobs
they
here.
both have to work full time.
Listen, Pat, we're gonna agree to disagree on this one.
I know.
I just got the most insane job rejection email, okay? I applied to a job at like a mental health tech startup company and I didn't get the job. Fine. They emailed me, they're like, you didn't get the job, we're really sorry, there are a lot of other qualified applicants. P.S. We know job rejection can be difficult. If you're struggling with your feelings at this time, here's a link and a discount code to download our mental health app. I'm not kidding. This is so genius. I bet the job never even existed. You know, just instigate people, cause depression, send a code for your app to cure depression. I'm not even mad. That is girl boss. That is girl math. I'm obsessed. Well done. Oh, my eye's swollen.
Did you know that employees from working class backgrounds are more susceptible to workplace harassment, especially in their early careers? A study from 2008 interviewed over 30 people from diverse backgrounds on their workplace experiences and found that the ones from working class backgrounds were the most vulnerable. Which makes sense. Imagine that you grew up in a working class family and you're starting your first job. You're excited, but you're also desperate to keep the job. You need the money. You might even be sending money back home to help your family. And then your boss starts harassing you, or a coworker starts bullying you. Are you going to speak up? Do you risk losing the job that is providing you and maybe your family's livelihood? Or do you stay silent, potentially facing long-term consequences? This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. This is what the researchers found, that people from working class backgrounds have fewer job opportunities and a greater need to stay employed, and that makes them vulnerable targets. And these early bad experiences can create a problem for the rest of their careers. If you're constantly dealing with a hostile work environment, you don't have time to network and build the relationships that go with making a successful career. You don't get to focus on developing your skills and going to additional trainings. You're trying to survive. You're also likely traumatized. Now contrast this with the experience of a middle-class employee. They enter the workplace with built-in advantages because the workplace is built on middle and upper middle-class norms. They've grown up knowing how to interact with people who are now their authority figures. Middle-class cultures tend to encourage people to be independent and speak up for themselves, but working class tends to encourage being compliant and not stirring the pot. Middle class people know what the rules are for navigating a conflict such as harassment, and more than that, they have usually more financial freedom to back out of a harassing situation. Now, as with everything, there's always an intersection, and that gender, race, and age also play a role here. For instance, blue-collar women in male-dominated jobs get harassed way more than white-collar women in law or engineering. Women of color are especially targeted for sexual harassment, as well as younger women. However, younger women are less likely to tolerate it than older women. I would guess, the researchers didn't say, but I would guess because we've grown up more with honestly having more rights and laws in our favor, even though there's still a long way to go. So what can we do with all of this? It's not an easy solution, but it starts with awareness and education. We need to equip young workers from low-income backgrounds with knowledge and tools to navigate these challenging situations. This means coaching them on the unwritten rules of work, and especially with conflict management and making sure they know what their rights are and that it is acceptable and encouraged to come forward and not just be compliant and not stir the pot. And that's hard in some work cultures that really force compliance. And for employers and policymakers, it's important we don't forget this group. Social class as an identity and social mobility is almost always ignored by organizations. This does not get incorporated into most DEI plans. We need to build more robust systems that include these groups. And this is why I'm so passionate about my work on the unwritten rules of work for people from low-income backgrounds. A positive early work experience can set the stage for a great career for a young person, but a negative one like this can really make it difficult for them to move forward and be successful. And when we support our youth from low-income backgrounds, we make the work and everywhere a better place for all of us. Because equity isn't pie. We all benefit from people not being harassed.
Here are some places that are must-sees in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is the capital of Washington State. It's the home of the FDR Memorial, seen behind me. FDR was in a wheelchair, which is why it's really messed up they named a street after him. There's eagles all over the memorial because FDR was a Phillies fan, and his memorial kind of looks like Rome because men are obsessed with the Roman Empire. This is his actual size. Look how small I look next to him. Behind me is the White House, which is an assisted living home for old white men with dementia. It was designed to look like sorority houses at the University of Alabama, and is made famous by the addictinggames.com game, George Bush Shootout, which takes place at the White House. This is the World War II Memorial, which is the sequel to World War I. Similar to Shrek 2, World War II is more critically acclaimed. No news if there's going to be another sequel, but Disney has acquired the rights. Behind me is the Washington Monument. I know what you're thinking. No way he was that big. You might remember the monument from when Tobey Maguire's younger brother defeated Beetlejuice. Luckily, they've been able to repair most of the damage from that attack. This is Martin Luther King Jr., seen here holding his 95 Thesis, which he nailed to the Catholic Church in a dream.
Giving birth is more dangerous than nearly every job in America. Maternal mortality right now is 32.9 out of every 100,000. Let's put that in perspective. If having a baby were a job, it would be the 6th most dangerous job in the United States, just ahead of truck driving, which is 29 per 100K. Let's add a little bit more perspective. In 2021, there were 660,288 police officers in the United States, but according to the FBI, only about 129 of them were killed in the line of duty. That means the police mortality rate is about 19.53 per 100K, which means if a police officer's partner gets pregnant, their partner is actually in more danger than the police officer is. Let's do one more comparison. According to the US Army, the mortality rate for active duty soldiers is about 1.3 for every 100,000. Which means if a soldier's partner gets pregnant before they go out to active duty, their pregnant partner is around 25 times more likely to lose their life than the active duty soldier. Giving birth is the most dangerous thing that most Americans will ever have to do within their lifetimes, so it should be voluntary. And if men won't listen to women who are telling them that, maybe they'll listen to a cis white dude who's telling them to listen to women.
Welcome in. Did you need help finding anything today? Are you not going to help me? I'm more than happy to help you. Is there anything I can help you with? Well, first things first, you can actually stand up and look professional. What would your manager think if they saw you sitting on the job? I'm sorry, there was absolutely no disrespect intended. My manager knows about me sitting on the job. This is actually a workplace accommodation, so I'm allowed to sit here. Not when you're helping me, you're not. That is completely unprofessional. I'm sorry, ma'am. I have conditions that require that I sit down, and I have accommodations in place that allow me to do so. Is there anything I can help you with? Because really all of my job duties can be accomplished while sitting right here at this desk, so I'd be more than happy to help you. I need help getting that thing off of that high shelf. Okay, sounds good. I will call somebody over to get that for you. No, I want it now. I want you to do it. You're sitting here doing nothing. You can do it. I'm so sorry, ma'am. This is a stationary position. I can't leave my post. I have to make sure that I'm getting everybody's IDs as they come in through the door and checking everybody in. So anything to do with merchandising, I have to pass off to one of my coworkers and they can help you. I want to speak to a manager. I don't think you're doing your job and this is entirely unprofessional. I cannot believe you are still sitting while talking to me. Like, can you please just stand up? It is like the bare minimum for respect when dealing with a customer is to stand up and address them. Again, ma'am, I'm sorry, and this is no disrespect intended, but I'm disabled, and so I will stay seated, as is in line with my accommodations and is approved by my management. And if you need any help from me whatsoever, I would be more than happy to give it to you. If you need help with merchandising, I would be more than happy to call somebody over for you. And if you would like to speak to my manager, I'd be more than happy to call them down. You do that. I'll be waiting, and I'll tell them all about how you were sitting on the job and not doing your work. Oh, Lordy. Can I get a manager up to the front, please?
If you grew up with your parents being your first bullies, here is something you do not have. Self-hate. But Ben, that's not true. I do have self-hate. I talk negatively about myself all the time. Of course, yeah, but if the words that you repeat to yourself are the same words that they told you, then it's not self-hate. It's just hate. You're not making up this new negative self-talk. You're just repeating theirs.
Hey, can you guys keep it down? Can everybody just... Hey, can you guys keep it down over there, please?
Hey, shut up, bro.
Wow. Not you interrupting the class. Shut up is crazy, and it's giving not enough attention at home. But hey, maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm not doing what I need to make everybody feel welcome and accepted in this class. So moving forward, I'll try to make sure that this is a safe place and a safe space for everybody to express themselves and feel a little more together here. Okay? Hey, y'all keep it down. Y'all keep it down. Hey, y'all keep it down, man.
Shut up, man.
What are you talking to?
You. Who else?
Hey, let me tell y'all something, man. Y'all lucky I need this job because if I didn't, I'd be ready to crash out right now. There's a reason why all these teachers in these schools call me too. Y'all wanna know why? Because I ain't the one, partner. So I'm gonna need you to go to the principal's office, like right now. All right, everybody, so we're gonna turn our books to
Can
page.
you shut up, please?
Excuse me?
I didn't stutter. Shut up before I come up there and slap those glasses off your face.
Well, tell you what, I'll do you one better. Let me go ahead and save you the trouble. Remove them in 1 second.
Ron, my man, 100 grand. What's the word?
What up, John? Can't call it.
Yes, sir.
How you?
Oh, man, you know me, same ish, different toilet, every day.
Hey, I hear that.
What you need?
Oh, well, I just needed to let you know, man, that your son just told me to shut up in class.
Say word.
All right, cold-blooded. He also said he gonna slap the glasses off my face.
Oh, no, he didn't do that.
Oh, yes, he did.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, you go on and get started, man. I'm about to leave work early. I'll be up there in a minute.
Tenfo.
Peace.
All right. You didn't know I knew your dad, huh? Yes, sir.
Mr. Johnson, who's Ron?
Oh, Ron was my name before. I was Ron before I was a teacher. I used to hang with his dad.
Mr. Johnson, what did my dad mean by get started?
Get started? I'll show you better than I can tell you.
So Josh, I'm sure you've heard about the new iPhone that's coming out.
Yes.
The 16 Pro. we have a prototype here, and we can take your phone and instantaneously, with the new technology, instantaneously transfer your information onto the new phone so you can test it out if you're interested.
I would love to.
Okay, so David here is going to just grab your phone quickly.
There we go.
And switch it out. So are you a big Apple fan?
I would say so, yeah. I had the iPhone 4, and I've pretty much had every phone since that. Just upgraded them over time. And now I just use them for work, so I upgrade them each year for work.
Who's your favorite Apple CEO?
Oh, probably Steve.
Ready?
Already? Wow.
It is very fast, so
Oh my God.
tell us what your immediate impressions are.
You know what, this is processing so much quicker than my phone. Like, I'm a bit of a tech head, I've always loved this stuff. That's impressive. That is really impressive.
Should be all transferred onto this one now.
Yeah. Feels more smoother. I like it. It's not like lagging a lot.
If you want to take a peek at your pictures, they should be enhanced.
They are. You can see the details on my necklace and like the jewelry.
Yeah.
It's cool. And like the background too. That's so cool.
It's already like a lot more responsive. I like that because it gets irritating waiting for my phone.
Yeah. And how does it look? Does it look different? The pixelation, the clarity?
It feels a lot more clear somehow. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
Are you a big Apple fan?
I am. I'm actually, I work for Apple.
Oh, what do you do?
I am a sales expert at Apple South Coast Plaza.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does it feel lighter to you?
A little bit lighter. And it has a little bit of a curvature to it that the previous one didn't have, yeah.
Do you want to try going online and seeing how much faster the processor is?
Okay, that's impressive.
There's a ton of under the hood improvements. Would you want to keep that new phone?
Yes, I would love to keep this.
Can we do that?
Keep it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, it's the end of the day, so.
Wow, what? Really?
Yeah.
What?
What?
Oh my God. Thank you. Wow, what? iPhone. Yes, guys, get this, please. Oh my gosh, please.
What would you say if I told you that that actually isn't the new phone, but that's your phone that you gave us?
I'd say Apple does a good job at improving their software. It definitely feels like it's a newer device, even with the improved software on here. So yeah.
No, but it's the same phone and software.
Oh, it's the same device?
Yeah.
Oh, that's shocking. It's the same one.
And you're definitely an Apple employee?
Oh, y'all got me.
But see, now you love your old phone. That's good.
That was good. And now they're going to hate me.
I just realized that people with ADHD and autism are an indicator species. And what is an indicator species, you might ask? It is the species in the environment that when the environment is unhealthy, they are the first ones to show it. So a lot of other species might be able to go on for a long time and you might not see the effects until later, but an indicator species is one of the ones that you're like, okay, if the algae dies, or if the rabbits are gone, or if this certain tree stops reproducing, we know that something's up with this environment. And I think that's what we are. That's what we are for the environment of humanity on the earth. Because we're all feeling unhealthy. We're all feeling like it's not great, but everybody's still, chugging along. They're living their lives, except we're kind of not. Even just in the last couple of years, it has become astronomically obvious that something is very, very, very wrong. And we're asking ourselves, why is nothing seeming to work out? Why can I just not do the things that even I used to do? Well, babe, it's because our freaking environment is whack, and we're the indicator species. And this is true of Earth as a whole, and countries and states and micro communities and everything. Like I got distracted by the weird shadows on my face. Sorry. Anyway, the cool thing about indicator species is they let you know kind of earlier. Not that we don't know that the environment is messed up, but we can start to do things now that'll have more effect than if we didn't have the helpful indicator species. So it's a message of hope, I hope.
If you want, you can just leave those on my desk when you leave today.
Put the papers on his desk when you leave, regardless of if you want to or not. I'm your boss. You do not correct me on these sort of things. The fact that you know more about this topic than me and I'm your boss embarrasses me, and I'm going to lash out and take it out on you.
Why do white women coddle white men? Well, first I'll say, white isn't a monolith. It all comes with privilege, but it's not a monolith in that I have talked in some videos like the disconnect between like middle class white lady and working class white lady. But if I were just to talk about race and gender identities, I would say that most white women subconsciously know that being a woman isn't going to win, but being white will. And the way we retain that power is by adhering to white men. That is where we get all of our benefits from. The old saying, as horrible as it is, but I think it paints it well, is that Black people were one of the few things that white women could own back in the day. So the adherence to whiteness is where the power is. But who has the power and all of that is still white men. And I've made some videos on why I think there's so much bullying among women at work in my bullying playlist on white women competing with each other and really putting down on women of color to try to appeal to the white men at the top. I also heard another TikTok creator say, and this was a while ago, I don't remember who it was or I tagged them, said that they think that white women appropriate so many other cultures because white women are not raised with the idea that they have their own divine power. They are raised to be partners to white men. And I haven't like dove into research on that, but I like felt that in my body when I read it. Now, granted, I was raised in pretty extreme religion, Catholic, which is very patriarchal, very male-centered. Only men can be leaders in the church. So I don't know that my perception translates across white groups, but that certainly is what I was conditioned to be as a Catholic white girl.
There are people who will associate you trying to hold them accountable with you expecting them to be perfect. Because they're trying to convince you that you having respect for yourself and setting boundaries means you have unrealistic expectations of how you want people to treat you. Moral of the story, never let an unhealed person try to convince you that love or like is supposed to hurt.
Working 9 to 10, then going to the bathroom. Working 10:30 to 11:45, then going to the bathroom. Then right before lunch, we do another bathroom. Then we go to the bathroom right after we get back from lunch. Working 2 to 3, then going to the bathroom. Working 3:30 to 4:30, then doing another bathroom. Then right before we leave, we go to the bathroom. If you question my bathroom breaks, I will see you in court.
So I have like a little conspiracy theory that I've never told anybody about the behaviors they're describing here and white jealousy. You know how every time there's the Pride Month in June, there's always people who are like, well, why don't we have straight pride? Well, heterosexual relationships have never been banned or punished. Or during Hispanic Heritage Month or Black History Month or Asian History Month, there's always the why isn't there, white history month? And while, yes, a lot of that is just blatant bigotry, xenophobia, homophobia, racism, sexism, etc. I do wonder if part of it is that white people, we are not a community. Like, there's not the white community. If white people are banding together to do something, I am always suspicious. And I am white. I'm like, oh no. What did we do that only we are doing this? Because we don't have a good track record. Like, we're not good at building community that isn't about oppressing other people. I do think this is part of like cultural appropriation, the being rooted in something that feels significant and like part of a community. Like, we don't really have that as white people because the things that like why we exist as a race are not things you want to be rooted in. And I'm not justifying appropriation. I think it's wrong. These are just like the thoughts of a psychologist who wonders like, why do we keep doing this? And this doesn't mean you don't have your subgroups and teams, that your boys, or I hope you have those third spaces with your community. That's part of why I moved from my 2-bedroom condo into a much smaller studio in DC, because I'm closer to my community. But I'm talking about like on that level that we see of like Pride Month, Black History Month, etc. We don't do things to just support other people. I think this is more common in working class communities. I've talked a lot about how that's more communal because you grow up sharing resources, and so going into white collar like this is shocking. Just food for thought that I think we need to work more on our community building skills everywhere. I'm not advocating for a white community. I'm kind of scared of what that would be. And there's also obviously historical differences in why white pride would not be okay, because it was the concept of whiteness was invented to justify slavery. But I think we could normalize more community sharing and less of this mindset.
Why is it more acceptable to say, you're projecting, instead of, I know you are, but what am I? They mean the same thing. They mean the same thing. You're lying if you think they don't mean the same thing.
Key to being a non-toxic mother-in-law is locked somewhere within filling your own cup. Fill your dang cup. Something outside of your children that makes you feel good, makes you feel fulfilled, makes you feel happy. Nurturing friendships, nurturing relationships, nurturing your marriage. I unfortunately feel like a number of the mothers-in-law who are finding themselves really confused about this role of mother-in-law and dissatisfied in their role as mother-in-law, and that ends up meaning they act in a way that comes across as desperate or controlling or with guilt trips. Those sorts of things are women who don't have enough going on outside of their relationship and their role as mom. And so when their kids grow up, they're ill-equipped to replace that relationship with other things. When their kid goes on to be married and starts to live their own life or in a serious relationship, whatever the case is. I get it. That's all easier said than done, but I definitely think it's something we need to be aware of. Okay, I love you. Have a great day.
Giving someone grace is one thing. Saving them from accountability and responsibility is another.
I want to give to the poor, but what if he uses the money for alcohol or drugs? Give him the money! It's 47 cents, Sarah. It's been jiggling around in your cup holder for 6 years. Keep the quarter that you use every Thursday at Aldi's and give the rest to the man who's sleeping in a bag. You have a faded Jesus fish on the back of your car. What would Jesus do? Would he hypothesize on what the man will use your dirty, gringy coins on? Or would he simply roll down the window and give it to him? Why are you saving it? You have a solid 9 to 5. What are you going to use the money for? You already have the quarter. Give him the money. I don't know if you know how much alcohol and drugs cost, but it's not approximately 20 cents. Give him the money, Sarah. God bless, my friend.
One of the Montessori principles is using beautiful materials, meaning things that people would actually want to use. So typically when I'm making Montessori activities, I use real materials like real watercolors, real watercolor paper. Sometimes people might think that's like overwhelming because then you do have to prep some things a little bit more, but there is a great way to get more of the community involved in doing the prep. People who are earlier stage dementia or people who are living in assisted living can actually put together a lot of these materials for you, and they like to do it because it's helping somebody else. We don't want to hide people with dementia away in a locked unit or anything. Think about engaging the whole community in dementia care. There's lots of people who are willing to help you prepare things for people who are farther along in dementia.
To avoid being manipulative, RODBT therapy gives us the flexible mind reveals skill. The R stands for recognize any secret desire for control. E stands for examine your social signaling and label what you find. So this refers to the don't hurt me and pushback responses that I've made videos on. So go watch them and see if you're accidentally doing any of those responses. V stands for remember your values, specifically values that contradict with controlling or manipulating other people. E stands for engage with integrity by outing yourself, which basically means being direct, being upfront, and taking responsibility for your reactions. A stands for practicing flexible mind adopts, which basically means staying open to feedback. And L stands for learn from self-inquiry, so taking the time to question your beliefs, intentions, and behaviors without falling apart for the sake of growth.
Nobody tries to humble you faster than someone who feels threatened by you.
Well, they're coming for them family farms and all them century-old barns. They'll charge you till you can't afford to work your family land, 'cause you don't get to pass it down unless you wear some royal crown. Repayment for the revolution, it's always been the plan. They track every single purchase that I make all year long, take a dime from every dollar that I earn from every song. So I'm headed to the harbor, think I'll just go back to barter. You can book me here right now, I'll sing all night for half a cow. 'Cause the more I make, the more they take, the less I have, the less I have, the more I need, the more I need, the more I work, the more I make, the more they take until they've got it all. That's enough of that.
The crash out, it's real. When you decide to unmask in front of people and your masking has been like doing a lot of emotional regulation for other people, especially non-consensually. And when I mean non-consensually, I just mean this person's totally unaware that you're doing emotional regulation. Usually what this looks like is people pleasing. Oh, they're talking about their problems, so I feel compelled to either fix them or do them. Or I see that they're struggling, so I will do that thing instead of being like, hey, I see that you're struggling. Can I do this to help you? It's really important to ask, because then it signals to other people not only to check in with themselves, but also that if you do get up and give any of your energy to this, it's because they're struggling, not just because the world works that way. And like, believe me, people do not correlate the two. So it's important that we ask and like give people the chance to either ask us or we directly ask them. Consent is important here, and this is why. When you stop because you were either burnt out or whatever reason, you just might have something going on that day, and you cannot do that for other people because they have no idea that you're doing it. They will crash out because around you, they do these things and miracles happen. It's like, and I'm going to explain this because anybody who's a parent will understand this. When you do for your children, like when you are always making them meals and it's time for them to learn how to make their own sandwich for lunch or something like that, when they have to start doing that stuff, they crash out. They're like, oh my God, I don't feel like this, because they're not used to it. But they're used to getting the sandwich, but they're not used to having to do the work or the labor to get it. They're used to just having it. They're used to it just appearing. And eventually their resentments and their frustrations will be aimed at you because, well, you always do this. Why aren't you doing this now? And that's normal for children. Like, that's a very normal activity to crash out and be like, until they figure out like, okay, I'm going to have to start regulating some of this myself, start working on the tiny steps to be able to do this for myself. They have to commit to all of that. And with kids, that's usually a very long-term work in progress, right? Adults do not see themselves as children, so when they crash out, they 1000% skip over all of the baby steps to be able to do this for myself, and will just look at the person who they believe is causing their crash out and will project all of their inability onto that person. It can get wild and weird. It's really important because sometimes it can send people into psychosis. Their paradigms are breaking and shattering. They are not who they think they are. They have lost something and they don't know what they lost, and what it was your mask. So now all of a sudden you're a problem because you're not acting right, you're not doing right, and they know that everything's going wrong because of you. They don't know why or what part of that is their accountability, or none of the nuance gets nuanced. None of it. It just becomes childlike reaction, but I'm an adult, so I'm not going to notice that I'm doing a childlike reaction. Projection, and like I'm saying, that can get really wild and crazy with adults. That's why when you mask for other people, people pleasing is a no-go, because People can go into psychosis when you stop masking. They can. If you're an adult in a workplace and you've just been helping people do X, Y, and Z, you're always the person they dump their work on, and now all of a sudden you don't have the capacity, you now are lazy. You now are no longer invested. You now are not a team player. Meanwhile, you're like, but I was doing your work. What do you mean team player? Yeah, like when I'm telling you, those people go through psychosis, but a lot of people, when they're in psychosis, especially when they're neurotypical, they're like, psychosis, I don't do that. That's not me. It's you. And they're going to keep staring at you and smiling until you break and you go crazy, because they cannot, the problem cannot be them, because you have no idea what they will have to face if the problem is them. I mean, you do know, because you're the one who does all the work. But yeah, no. Crash out's wild. So that's why I always say to people, it's really important to have integrity and to know that you need to ask consent before you help others and you do other stuff. People pleasing will lead you into some really fucked up places and spaces. And on top of that, it makes it really hard to be to hold yourself accountable for it, simply because you feel like your intent was to help and to do well. And oftentimes, if you grow up in environments where you have to anticipate other people's needs, you were over parentified as a child. And you have to be a mind reader, you honestly will be in a place where you think that what you're doing is natural and normal and just in love language, and it's not. It's just it's important to either let people ask you or you ask, because it cuts all the bullshit out. It really does. By the way, I'm Francine Simone, founder of the Midnight Scholar Society, where I talk about all this stuff. Join the free newsletter and the Discord for more information, all that kind of stuff. But if you just happen to be experiencing people crashing out around you because you're no longer masking and stuff like that, here's a good time to practice boundaries. When are you going to remove yourself from the situation, and then just hold that ground until you feel like it is safe for you. And sometimes it's never going to be safe, again, because that person is 1000% thinks that you are the villain in the situation, and that's why they just set someone else's house on fire because of you. Some people are like that. Some people will reflect and be like, oh my goodness, I'm recognizing my issues here. And also, boundaries and absence allows you to recognize where your accountability lies and how you were stepping in and people pleasing, all that kind of stuff. So absence, boundaries are about when you walk away, not about other people and what they do, but about you. When are you going to walk away? That's a great time to work on that. So yeah.
Here's my thing about being an enslaved person. If you're an enslaved person and you get upset that somebody's calling you a slave, and you're not upset about being an enslaved person, that's slave shit. You understand? That's mental slavery, and you're still a fucking slave. Sorry if that offends you during your phone time that you get to have as an enslaved person. Kind of a hot take, isn't it? Like, here's the thing. People who want you to say enslaved people are not enslaved people. Harriet Tubman said these people didn't know they were enslaved. But how do you think she'd wake them up? The pistol implies she just said, listen, motherfucker, you are a slave. They have us eating hog maw, grits, chitlins, chitterlings. That sounds like where bugs live. That's slave food.